Looking to stand out from the pack at your first job? When you earn a master's in management from Georgetown, you'll gain the skills employers value most, elevating your career prospects for years to come. Get started at choosegeorgetown.com/MIM.
They need to start standing up for us, and that's what they're failing to do. And so we build the wall.us. Brian Colvat started this movement in December, and American citizens are taking it into their hands to go ahead and take their own hard-earned money, pool it together, and we are talking with landowners. We have 7 pieces along the border that are picked out. We're going to be breaking ground in April or May, and we're going to show these politicians in D.C. how it's done.
Well, the left has said that you all are renegades and revolutionaries, that you all are trying to do something that's not constitutional. You shouldn't be involved in it. Don't you believe that very same thing?
No. In fact, I think that what we're doing is absolutely constitutional. I mean, it's our right as American citizens. And we're the ones who provide the checks and balances for our government.
The law was passed in 2006, okay, sponsored by actually a rep who's one thing over, and they built only 36 miles of these 700 miles. The rest, President Obama said, "Oh yeah, we built 700 miles," but after the 36, it was these cross things that stop, right? That it'll stop a car, but if I wanted to, me overweight Jeff who's out of shape, I could walk right around it.
Exactly.
Well, Jeff, there's places, and we have pictures, there's places where he could hold the fence open for you.
Right.
Pull it up, and it would take you 2 seconds to walk through. There's other places where you roll it out of the way, and they could drive a car through.
Well, and they show maps on mainstream media, a lot like on CNN and MSNBC, of the southern border with the dark red line that we have border secure fencing there. We don't. In Arizona, it's 330 miles of 4 strands of barbed wire. That's our border security.
Really?
Yeah.
330 miles of
some of that
Arizona
barbed
border.
wire. Some of that barbed wire fencing is so bad in such disrepair. It may be 1 strand, if anything at all.
Well, the other lie is that they say, well, when they catch drugs, it's always at the entry points. Well, yeah, they're catching them.
Right.
The people who are going in around the fences,
through the fences.
Right through the fences, they're not catching them. That's why they're not seeing people.
And they're being brought in with these drug
Wait a minute. You all are manufacturing a crisis. Look, it was solved with Obama.
Well, wait a second, though.
It's manufactured. You all are just coming up with something so Donald Trump can look like he's a big wad. Do you know
what, though? Both these folks lost a child.
Thank you.
Because of the fact that we don't have a border. So anybody say they had the crisis.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Go ahead.
My son was a Mesa, Arizona police officer on his way home on May 12, 2014, and a repeat illegal alien criminal who'd been shown leniency in our court system. Drove over 35 miles the wrong way, 3 times the legal limit drunk, high on meth, and slammed head-on into my son and killed him. And that's what spurred me into this fight, because I realized the leniency that our court system is showing illegal alien criminals, basically giving a slap on the hand and saying, go back out into our country, there's no punishment for you. This is wrong. This is absolutely 100% wrong.
But wasn't it the responsibility of the federal government to pick that person up and take care of that crime?
Not when you have sheriff's offices or sanctuary cities or sanctuary police departments that will not cooperate with ICE. This is the problem. And this is what sanctuary cities, states, counties are causing in our country to allow illegal alien criminals to roam free.
January 22nd, 2015, my son was working the overnight shift at QT at a QT in Mesa.
What's a QT?
Quick Trip Convenience Store.
Oh, like a 7-Eleven type
thing.
The best one.
Yeah, it is the best one. They are the best one. Anyway, man came in and dumped a jar of change out on the counter and wanted to buy cigarettes. Grant went, started counting the change. Man says, what, you're not going to give me my cigarettes? Grant says, hey, I got to count your change. This man produced a gun. Grant did everything he was supposed to do. He handed over the cigarettes.
Right.
Didn't hesitate. Handed over the cigarettes. This man shot him point blank in the face and executed him. He then went around the counter, stepped over Grant's dead body, grabbed a couple more packs of cigarettes.
I like that.
Stepped back over Grant's body and left.
Did they ever catch him?
Yeah, they caught him. But as far as our legal system, I haven't had a trial yet. It's been 4 years. No trial yet. Now, this man, we found out later in the day, was an illegal alien. 2.5 years before he killed my son, he had been arrested for doing a home invasion. Him, his wife, and another man broke into a woman's home, held her captive naked for 10 days. Sexually assaulted this woman over and over and over the 10 days. He was able to plead his crimes down to felony burglary, never did a day in prison. He had 2 years probation, and he was on day 745 of his ICE bond. So again, had this man been prosecuted legally and spent time in jail, my son would be alive. Had he been deported after we were done with him at the end of his probation, my son would be alive. 2 weeks before he killed my son, he pulled a gun and pointed a gun at his stepson's head. They reported it to the police and they failed to pick him up because they couldn't prove it. Again, these are the failures over and over and over in our system. It happens every single day. Every one of these criminals have been deported before.
And you know what? You know, all the drugs that comes from our border. I have a cousin who is a lawyer. You think it's only like, you know, poor people in the slums? He died from an overdose of heroin.
Huh?
That heroin came from Mexico.
90% of the heroin coming across our southern border, that's 90% of the heroin coming across our southern border. 78% of that is coming across the Arizona southern border. We have 265 overdoses a month in Maricopa County. Brian Kolfage is succeeding where our politicians are failing.
Well, I actually, Brian and I used to be, I'm still there. I think he left, he's part of the same blogging network. And Brian, for those of you who don't know, is a wounded warrior, okay, who lost one arm and 2 legs. Okay, and the thing is that the kind of person he is that there was a kid in Iraq who had the same injury as him, and Brian flew there to comfort the kid, to say, you know, life still goes on. So
Brian is a hero. He is an American hero. This man literally got blown up for his country.
Right.
Literally.
And he's still fighting for our country. But, folks, you got to know, though, we can deport all the illegal alien criminals we want, but if we don't have a secure border, they will keep coming back. They will keep coming back.
No, first and foremost, my heart leaves with you all. My condolences to you and your family. I lost my daughter to gang violence. She was coming home from covering a story on Capitol Hill, and 2 gang members grabbed her and one shot her point blank. I feel what you feel.
I'm so sorry.
And likewise. But in this feeling, there's a certain sense of justice and a certain sense of hopelessness that the system that's supposed to work for you is working against you. What is it that you want the American people to do, and how can your organization help make it happen?
The American people need to start standing up for each other, and they need to start realizing that the politicians that are in some of these positions in Washington, D.C. are fighting harder for illegal alien rights and for everything to be given to them, and they are fighting against the very American people who voted them into office. We have got to come together as a country, and we have got to let these politicians know you have to take care of your family first. And we're family in the United States. Every one of us are American citizens, we're family. Take care of your family, and at that point, you know, we would be able to take care of others, but you can't. Well, we've got homeless veterans and homeless Americans and hungry American children. Children in North Carolina are being raped at alarming rates by illegal aliens. You know, go to ncfire.info and see the tragic amounts of children. We've got to take care of our children.
We know the Democrats are not open to listening to you at all because it's just a kid. It's just.
If I could just say one thing, It's not just the Democrats, okay?
Yeah, that's the point I was getting ready
The
to.
Republicans who were on that committee they had
Yes.
that approved that crappy deal, they should be voted out of office. They should be primaried and voted out of
Well,
office.
see, and
That's the point I was getting.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
And there's the biggest thing. The American people need to start doing checks and balances and checking into who they're electing. Our favorite person, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now that woman supposedly didn't have dime one to get herself an apartment, but now she lives in a high-rise. She just signed a $10 million deal with Netflix. So let me ask you a question, folks. Why did she really run for office?
Well, all I can say about her.
Why did we elect her?
All I can
And
say
if she
about
gave
her is
70% of her $10 million deal.
Yeah, where's that going?
It's certainly not. No, see, it wasn't $10 million and $1. See, on the $1 you give 70%. See, she worked that deal out.
Yeah.
And the
She
one
knew that
thing
was
about
coming.
her is she can have my hamburger after she pries it out of my cold, dead hands. Okay?
Absolutely. But this is what we have.
Terrific.
We encourage your viewers, go to
Thank you.
rebuildthewall.us, donate to the wall that we're going to be doing. Go to angelfamilies.com, see what we're up to.
And all these links will be up on my website tonight.
Just one other question, because the left put out a story that Brian Colfitch was using that money for his personal well-being. Please tell the viewers today what that money is being used for.
Yeah, Brian doesn't see a dime of that money. That money is going to build the wall. As Marianne said earlier, we have 6 or 7 different sites. We cannot disclose where they are, but we will be breaking ground April or May at the latest.
And one more thing.
Yes.
This money is going towards the wall, and
Every
there's no
penny.
way we would have gotten involved in this if this donated money
Yeah.
was going to a nefarious cause. We
Right.
would never have been involved in this.
Very lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you,
you're
guys.
watching The Exceptional Conservative Show. I am so God bless you. I'll be talking with y'all soon. The Exceptional Conservative Network, the exceptionalconservativeshow.com. We are at CPAC Live, ladies and gentlemen. I am broadcasting with none other than my very good friend, Jack Dunetz.
He's my brother from a darker mother.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm very, very glad that you are with us this particular day.
Is Carla next?
Let's find out who the next guest is. Okay. Steve is next. Steve. My man, Steve.
How are you, sir?
Jeff Dunetz, sorry we're running so late.
No worries. That's how it is. I think I gave you one before,
Steve,
but
thank you so much.
you can always pass it out somewhere.
Steven, you are awesome. I
Great
love
to see
you,
you,
man.
brother.
I love you.
Great to see you. Always good to be here.
Listen, Stephen, we have been told that it's impossible for Americans to speak English and that we need to allow others of other cultures to speak whatever language they want to come to America. Is that the truth?
No, it's not. And here's the thing. I'm the executive director of Pro English. People can visit our website at proenglish.org. And what we do is we advocate for English as the official language of governmental operations here in the USA. And here's the funny thing, is we do a lot of education and engagement on Capitol Hill. We support the English Language Unity Act in Congress, which would make English the official language of government operations. But many, many people, including members of Congress, don't know that we don't have an official language. I have met with senators, conservative U.S. senators, one of whom spoke here at CPAC recently, who said to me, Steve, what are you talking about that English isn't the official language of the USA? It's always been the official language. And I said, no, sir, Senator, it has never been the official language of the USA.
As a matter of fact, Ben Franklin wanted the language to be Hebrew.
Did you really?
Really?
Very interesting.
True story.
Oy vey.
That's what I'm saying. But,
Well, I've been to Israel, so that's not a bad second option, to be honest with
but
you.
English is what we all grew up with.
Well, here's the funny thing. Right now, 85% of United Nations member nations have an official language. 54 of those nations have English as an official language, including Taiwan, which just became the 54th nation around the world to have English as official language, but not the USA.
But
How
isn't that
crazy is
racist? Isn't that racist to want people to speak English?
How is it racist? If we were in Italy right now doing this, what would we be speaking? Italian. If we were in
With
Paris
France,
right now,
they'd make fun of us for not speaking it well.
exactly. And so all we are saying is, look, English is the historic, common, unifying language of the United States. And all we are saying is that for governmental operations, English should be the official language, because right now we would save billions with a B, billions of dollars every year if English became the official language of the USA, either by a legislative act or by an executive order by the
Once
president.
we do that, can we get them to use the language correctly, like illegal aliens or illegal aliens?
Well, that's, yeah, when people say don't use the phrase illegal immigrant, I say, well, what part of that is incorrect? You know.
Well, I came up with another one.
What's that?
Illegally trespassing aliens.
That is creative.
You
That
know,
is very creative.
but taxes are taxes, not revenue enhancements. And
Well, doesn't this hurt those who are in low-income communities in terms of making English the official language of the United States of America?
How would it hurt them? It would actually help them. You know, a bit of the pushback that we get from our opponents is that, oh, you guys are not compassionate. You hate immigrants and you want to, basically keep them under your thumb, etc. No, just the opposite. What we say to immigrants is, when you come to this nation, we want you to assimilate culturally. And part of that cultural assimilation is learning the language. We oppose bilingual education, for instance, in schools, because we want students to come and immerse themselves in English as quickly as possible and become proficient in English as quickly as possible. It really doesn't matter whether you're a student in public schools or an adult immigrant coming here.
isn't that how they did it when we were kids? That they
I
come
had
in and
ancestors that came from Estonia, for instance, and the first thing they did was they learned English when they came to this nation. I used to live in Florida.
my relatives who came from Ukraine right next
Exactly,
door.
a neighbor. And so many immigrants, they came to the USA, and the first thing they did was learn English. I used to live in Florida. I knew many Cuban Americans, who escaped from Castro, escaped communism, came to Orlando or Miami or Tampa, wherever. They said, Steve, the first thing I did when I came to the USA was I learned English. Now they are all successful doctors, lawyers, engineers, professors, etc. They said, how can native-born Americans not get it that if you want to achieve the American dream, particularly as an American, as an immigrant to our shores, you need to learn English and assimilate right away. So what we are saying, what we are advocating, is more compassion. If you learn English, become proficient in it, immerse yourselves right away, learn the language, then you are going to live the American dream. Great example. If you're baseball fans, Yu Darvish, the pitcher for the Chicago Cubs.
Yes.
Go on our website, proenglish.org. We just posted an article. Yu Darvish just did his very first mass media interview at Chicago Cubs spring training in English. He's from Japan. He's spoken Japanese his whole life, has learned English. Now he is speaking to the media in English. He's a wonderful example of someone who's come to our shores, done very well, making millions of dollars, learning English to improve himself.
Now, we don't
How
have,
can
we don't
people
have like
help
a
your
minute.
efforts?
Yeah.
First off, visit our website, proenglish.org. Proenglish.org.
Folks, and the link will be on my website later today.
We're a nonprofit organization. We're a 501c3, so we rely on donations. So if the listeners and viewers go to our website, like what they see, please make a donation. We're a 501c3, so we rely on donations. We take no government money whatsoever.
Great.
Stephen, it's always great
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
Thank you both
You're
very,
fighting
very
the good
much.
fight, and
Can I call you
someday,
neighbor? Because
Yeah, absolutely. Ukraine and
someday
Estonia.
we will have English as the official language of the
Hopefully
United States
so.
of America.
You guys are a great help to us. We
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Do our
Thank
best.
God
Thank
bless.
you.
God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Shalom.
Shalom. Ladies and gentlemen, I was accompanied with a Jew this morning, and I'm going out in the afternoon with a Jew. This is Jew.
Me? Oh.
Yeah. Jeff Dunetz, ladies and gentlemen. Ken McClenton. We are live at CPAC. We are about to get a new guest brought over to us.
Yes.
Okay, who is this new guest?
Carla Diadisi.
Carla Diadisi. Carla
The
Diadisi.
culture of
I'm
life.
in the house.
Oh my
Fashion for
goodness.
life.
Culture of life,
Move up
1972.
one chair. Move up one chair.
You can totally see
Okay.
it.
All right. Carla,
Do you want my daughter in the house too or no?
Yeah,
Your
she-
choice.
She is a designer. Whatever you think is that.
What can I do for you?
Yeah, listen.
the culture of life.
Hi, Victoria. Have a seat. Relax.
They want you in the camera.
Oh, awesome. There's a camera.
There you go.
So we'll
Where am I supposed to
smile.
look? Oh, with that thing?
There you go.
And
There you
trust
go.
me,
High five. There you go.
they'd rather watch you guys
She's
than
leaving
me.
Hanging. You leave me hanging. There you go.
So we're looking at that thing? Is that what I'm looking at?
right?
No, you can talk to us.
We're
It's
talking
okay.
to the guys. Too.
You know.
All right, whatever. All right, thank you for having us on. We feel so honored to be with you.
It's
We
great.
feel honored that you're here, and I'm sorry we're running late.
Yeah,
It's
no,
okay.
it's not
We
a
had
problem.
technical problems. So tell us all about the culture of life.
So we started COL 1972,
Okay.
January 2019, for Sanctity of Life.
You know, I had hair back then.
Wow, that was only a month ago. What happened? Did the liberals do that
No, children. But
to you? So anyway, we launched this line because we felt like we were being marginalized in the fashion industry. We felt like they were pushing anti-American agendas. They were pushing anti-life agendas and anti-family agendas. So we felt like we could not put our purchasing power in places like Target that give back money to Planned Parenthood.
Right.
And so that's what launched COL 1972. This is fashion for life. We believe life is always in style. It's glamorous. It's beautiful. We're creating a life tribe. We might be black, white, green, purple, men, women, atheist, Christian. We are
Jews too.
united. Jews too, absolutely.
Yep.
Yes. We are united by the belief that all life has purpose and value. And we want to celebrate that every minute of every day.
Carla, when you came on my program before, I played the tape of a late-term abortion.
Gosh, I recognize your face now. Yes, you did. And it was very difficult for me to talk after that.
Exactly. Now, how difficult is it to talk now when the U.S. Senate can't protect those who survive abortion?
It's devastating. It's devastating that we have only 3 Democrats that voted for life. Devastating. And some of these Democrats are running for president in 2020. I think in 2020 this is going to be one of the biggest issues. I think that you need to look at the candidates that are celebrating life and those candidates like Cuomo in New York who are celebrating death. So that's
They're not even pro-choice.
No,
Okay?
they're celebrating
because
death.
because if they were pro-choice, they would give the fetus a choice.
Yes.
Exactly.
But they'd have to wait till the kid was like 18 years old to make the choice.
Right.
So,
Carla, you brought your daughter with you? Your
I
daughter
did.
in?
This is Victoria.
Victoria, you're so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You
Thank
take
you.
after your mother.
Thank
There you go.
Thank you. You know,
But
any
Victoria,
good- go
yeah,
ahead.
Victoria, I want to ask you here. Aren't you out of the mainstream? How can you impact children and young people in your generation? How are they going to listen to you when you're sounding like the anti-person regarding this?
Right. Well, I think it's really important. I've seen a lot in public school. A lot of people who even agree with like my beliefs. A lot of pro-life students. They're scared to, admit that they are pro-life. They're scared to admit that they're conservative. We call them the closet conservatives in my household. And even just during the 2016 election, like when my sisters and I would wear our Trump shirts to school, we'd be posting on social media pictures of us at Trump rallies, campaigning for Trump. There were so many students that would come up to me and just like quietly say, "Thank you for what you're doing. I support Donald Trump, but I'm just scared to say it."
Yeah.
And I would say to them, you shouldn't be afraid. You should own it up to your beliefs. This is the United States of America. Like, you have a right to believe what you believe. And I think that if I can just encourage people that are my own age to own up to their beliefs and stand for what they believe in, then I think I've done my job.
But you two are trying to take away the rights of women. Women have worked hard in this country to have the right to kill their baby. Why are you trying to take that away from them?
So that's a
babies are
false
gonna be
narrative.
wrong,
Oh, okay.
We believe that's a false narrative. We
Yeah.
believe that the feminists and the pro-death movement, we don't call them pro-choice because if they were giving the choice for adoption, we might consider them to be pro-choice. But come on, they're pro-abortion. That is what they are. That's what that choice means, pro-abortion.
actually, I have a niece and a nephew who are adopted kids that are wonderful kids.
We have a lot of adopted kids in our family as well. It's
And you
almost like
have
the
to-
United Nations.
My sister had to wait years. Okay.
There's waiting lists for people that want to adopt. It's a very viable option. So we want to steal back the narrative, and we're hoping to do that with COL 1972, where we say that we are the pro-women. We really are for women. We really want to help you. The other side does not want to help women. They don't want to help unborn women, unborn men. They're really just haters. And so when you go to COL 1972, you've looked at our site. It is happy. It is joyful. It is glamorous. And
There we go.
life is always in style.
There you go.
And
Beautiful.
we always have flash sales. We have. So this is our our movement, right? You guys, this is our tribe. We're a life tribe, a culture of life tribe, culture of life posse, and we welcome. No, I'm not.
We're not Elizabeth Warren.
We're not Elizabeth Warren.
Who is whiter than ivory snow. But,
Yes, that's right.
but culture of life, 1972. You all got some great stuff on that website.
Thank you.
Really?
Now,
Thank you.
now,
Wait till you see our spring line. We just finished designing it.
I want you
When
to
does
come
it
back
go
so
up?
we can promote-
April 1st.
April 1st. We're going to have you on in early March so we can talk
Thank
about
you.
that.
Thank
Because on the runways of America, they need to have the culture of life.
Yes.
How are you reaching them with Amazon or whatever? How do people buy this stuff?
Okay, well, it's e-commerce site, so you can go to our website, www.cool1972.com, or we also sell on social media, so you can go to Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. We have a little shopping tab. You can shop there. You can look at our product. Yeah.
That's how the kids shop today. They're on Facebook. They want to shop on Facebook.
Are you doing this
You
here
can
at
shop
CPAC?
from your bed. We are not selling at CPAC, but if you love our stuff, you can go right online
You
and
can do
shop.
it right here at CPAC.
Yeah,
Come
do you know what
on.
we're going to do? Is this going live? We should do a
Yeah.
CPAC 20.
There you
We're
go.
going to put a code in that if you do CPAC 20, you get 20% off
Whoa.
until Saturday. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Only here at TECN do you get this kind of information.
That's right. That's right.
Blockbuster.
We're going to do that.
Breaking news.
You can start shopping. We're going to change the code. We're going to put the code in.
If you put in
Give us 30
COL,
minutes.
You put in
Okay.
CPAC 20.
CPAC 20. CPAC 20.
20.
Yep.
We're going to get
Buy
and
it
remember,
now.
10% of all of your sales goes back to Celebration of Life
Yeah,
organizations.
10% of our net profits.
As opposed to other organizations that give your money back to Planned Parenthood or anti-American things, or organizations that want men to be in our bathrooms or women in your bathrooms.
Now, you mentioned adoption,
Yes.
and that there's a waiting list. There's some people who will go out of the country to adopt children, not adopting children here. Is there a reason for that? Is there a reckoning that should be made in regards to that?
So I believe that there is a reason for that. You might notice that a lot of people are adopting from China, and that's because they have a greater need than we have, because their communist government says you're only allowed to have one child. So you have
Now you can have 2 moms.
now you can have two. She's
Because they
right.
ran out of women.
That's true. They couldn't procreate anymore, so they're like, oh, what do we do now when we play God and we've just aborted all the little girls? Okay, you can have 2 kids.
Well, now everyone can be Billy Porter in China. So it has to be a woman somewhere around. You all are doing a marvelous job. I'm going to take a photograph
Thank you.
with you all
Yeah,
here.
I'd
I want
love
to
it.
send it out to let everybody know that
Thank you.
COL
1972 official.
Culture of Life, CPAC 20, you get 20% off.
Yes.
You don't have to be here. 20% off.
No,
just
you don't
for
have to
knowing.
be here.
Yeah,
Just
enter
for
the
knowing.
code at checkout.
And you heard it here first on the Exceptional Conservative Network.
And for the guys like me, I've seen their line. If I bought some of the stuff, my wife wouldn't say, "What are you going out in?"
She's gonna love it. And it's
Well,
all
because-
fleece lined. It's comfy. I live in it. The girls are like, "Can you take it off now, Mom?"
What is your expectation of financial growth over the next 4 to 5 years for Culture of Life?
I love this. Well, we hope that we are growing exponentially because remember, we're giving back 10%.
Exactly.
We want to give back as much money as we possibly can to support the pro-life community and movement. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I mean,
See, this is
honestly-
all new to us.
Yeah,
Remember,
because a lot of
I
people...
was a homeschool mom up until September.
Because a lot of people are like, I want to start a business, I want to do business or whatever, and it turns into I'm giving more away than I'm actually making.
No.
Yeah.
We want to keep giving back into the company. We must because we want to expand and grow. We do not want to be a flash in the pan. We want to be here for the next 70 years. Oh, wouldn't that be great if we didn't even need to be here
I
in
want to
70
be here
years?
for the next 70 years too.
Yeah.
No, I wanna look-
They might invent
I want to
something.
look like them for the next 70 years.
I don't look like them now.
Thank you. We love you guys.
Victoria, Carla, we love you. We thank God for
Thank
you
you so
all.
much for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm going to put the link on my site later,
Awesome.
along with the
Great.
CPAC 20.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Feedback. Dr.
Can we
Jane,
get a picture?
Dr. Jane, can we get a picture? Because we're going to release this CPAC 20, 20% discount, baby.
Yeah. And we're going to leave you that code so you can keep telling everybody.
Definitely.
That'd be great.
Day
And you're going
long.
to change that. Will you be responsible for that fee after this
Yeah, I got
interview?
it. I'm on it.
Okay, CPAC 20.
CPAC 20
Until, what should we do? Sunday morning. We'll do it until Sunday.
until midnight Sunday. Well, actually, 11:59 Sunday because midnight would be Monday.
CPAC 20% off.
I'll be long asleep before midnight on Friday.
Ladies and
Okay,
gentlemen,
let's take a picture, you guys.
make certain CPAC 20% off. There you go.
Taking a picture?
See, come on over.
Here, can you just take one on? Oh, she has your phone.
Oh, Victoria, come on, let me.
Oh, wait, I thought we were taking from them.
Well, we go out and make music.
No, they come back. Victoria, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it was so nice to meet you.
And you guys are doing a great job.
Thank
and,
you.
and the stuff is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You know?
Okay, should we put the two girls in the middle, or
Yes.
what do you want to do? Okay, thank you. I think that's. Yes, thank you for telling me that you just interviewed me like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, everybody
I
say
wouldn't even
shit.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know, that's the longest I've smiled in a long time.
Send that to me so I can put it out
I'll
tonight on
send you.
Facebook.
Give me your
Yeah, it's on my card.
Oh yeah, I'll take it. Nice meeting you, sir.
Nice
Thank you
meeting
for
you.
everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Jeff's. Wait, this is your card.
Yeah.
Mine is the one in the middle
Ken.
with the lid.
Should I call you Kenneth or
Yeah,
Ken?
Ken is fine.
I'll tag you in
I
all
thought
my
we had to call you Uncle
Thank you.
Tom.
Only on
That's what-
weekends.
That's what you said before.
I'm going to put that
I'm glad because I feel uncomfortable calling you that. You're not my uncle, and your name isn't Tom.
Oh, I need this. I will be lost without my schedule.
Oh, yeah.
That would be bad.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Folks, since I started broadcasting without even introducing, I'm here at CPAC with my buddy who you've heard many times on this show, Ken McClenton. Say hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Yeah, see? He knows his name. And we're doing 2 hours today. We're doing 2 hours tomorrow, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I
You know?
really will.
And I'm trying to keep the language clean, which is hard when I'm around Ken because he makes me be funny. But it's been a good day at CPAC.
It's a great day.
Day one, but we kind of missed one big one today because we were doing the show when Rick Harrison of Porn Stars was speaking.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I
115.
love him.
And when I told my daughter last night that, Porn Stars is going to be on TV, she said, Dad, you got to enunciate better.
4 stars. We there have been so many guests and people who are walking past, and that was a great Carla Diandisi with her daughter Victoria. Oh man, and they're beautiful women, absolutely beautiful young women.
And our next guest is actually should be here any second.
Our next guest,
Mark Morano,
Mark Morano, should be
Climate
here
Depot, who actually wrote this book.
about climate change. Okay, the hockey stick belief system.
Yeah, except Mark is the man who taught me most of the things I know about climate change being bulldinky. So, Ken, what has been, besides being on the air, what was your favorite part of CPAC so far?
Being on the air is all I know. I got here like 5:30 this morning. We've been going since 7:30. We've been live. We've had so many great guests. I got a chance to be on Lonnie Poindexter's show.
Right.
I get a chance to be on your show.
I was actually in the background in Lonnie's show,
Yeah.
throwing in stupid things.
I want to take a phone screen, take a phone of this
Okay.
for the rest of your afternoon.
Okay.
Because I'm going to go to a little.
James,
What time is Mark supposed to be here? Mark Morano, 2 o'clock, right? Yeah.
Mark Levin. No way.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, he's my buddy.
You don't have Mark Levin on there.
Mark Morano, from Climate
Mark
Depot.
Levin, same
If it
synagogue.
was Mark Levin, you'd see me sitting my ass down for the rest of the afternoon.
No.
Although I don't like that he's a convention of states guy. Whatever. All right.
Hey, thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting some idea now who's supposed to be on.
Now, you should know that I was actually up watching the press conference last night. Actually, it was this morning.
I'm just gonna run for ladies' room and then I'll take this suitcase out of here right here. Just yeah.
Isn't she beautiful, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are watching?
Oh, we're still live?
Yeah, we're live. We're going to be live all day long. She is so gorgeous. Look at her.
I'm just gonna say hi because anybody who says that around me, I'll say hi and everything.
Dr. Jane Ruby. Terrific. You want to come on over? Come on over. Who is she? I don't know. But we're waiting, and why not entertain the audience while we're waiting?
That's absolutely true.
CPAC is just a place to be.
Hello. How you
Hello.
doing?
I'm Sherry Gerald, and this is my
I'm Lee Murphy.
Hi, Jeff Dunetz.
I'm running for Congress in Delaware.
Well, you're going to sit down
Oh.
and talk to us. Come right on in.
Right now?
Really? Right now.
Where the
We're live
Schmotus lives.
across the country.
Do you know who the Schmotus is?
No.
The Schmo of the United States, the former vice president.
Oh, Joe. I've known Joe for many, many years.
And I've always called him the Schmotus.
Schmotus. The Schmotus.
There you go. Lee Murphy, you are running for Congress in Delaware?
I'm running for Congress in the great state, the first state, Delaware.
That's right.
Okay, which was formerly, many years ago, a red state.
Okay, so you must be a hardcore LGBTQ, pro-abortion, socialist kind of guy, right?
Are you kidding me? But I'm in the minority there.
My buddy Ken can be a little sarcastic.
It's okay. I get it.
I mean, I do this for him, and I'm not even Jewish.
Well, that's good.
But first and foremost, what motivated you to run for office in Delaware? And God knows we need a conservative out of Delaware in the Congress.
Well, I've lived in Delaware my whole entire adult life.
Yes.
I ran in 2018. We came up short. It was a tough year for Republicans.
Yeah.
In terms of running for Congress.
Mm-hmm.
The tide is definitely turning.
And why is it turning?
The president, I don't have to recite all the great things he's doing, okay? The Democrats, quite frankly, are on a path of self-destruction. And in Delaware, that's on the state level as the federal level, with our 3 Democratic elected federal representatives. They're following the path, and they're going as left as they possibly can.
Yeah.
So we have a good shot in 2020.
That's wonderful.
And I think nationwide it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Do you have your press people have a PR list that they send out PR notices to about your campaign?
Yes.
Do me a favor, take my card and put me on the list.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lee Murphy.
It's actually a list I want to be on. Sometimes I'm on my wife's list, but that's not a list you want to be
You don't want to be on the wife's list, not at all. In terms of, what are the 3 primary things that you think Delaware needs to focus on in 2020?
Well, in 2020, just like in the 2018 campaign, the drug crisis in Delaware. On Sunday's News Journal, the paper in Delaware, there were 432 people died in 2018. It's more than 1 a day. And people talk about this and talk about it. My family has had a tragedy in drug overdose, unfortunately, like many families. But it's something that people talk about. But we need to really start getting things done.
Absolutely.
And the president, he's an advocate, and that's a number 1 priority. And the economy in Delaware right now stinks.
Oh my God, it does.
There's no manufacturing. The Democrats chased out the GM, Chrysler, the car manufacturing. So I mean, we have a like Walmart economy.
Exactly, retail,
But
casino.
in the drive from New York to Washington, you have the best rest stop.
We do.
The Delaware, the Delaware, Welcome Center. It has the best fast food. It's the one, even if I'm not hungry, I stop. Am I right? Clean bathrooms, right? Pizza.
Good pizza. Okay. Well,
Your thoughts regarding the U.S. Senate and not being able to vote against surviving abortion protection for fetuses?
not being able to vote against it?
Not being able to.
Well, the Senate blocked the bill that would say once a baby is born, the doctor had to take care of it.
Yeah.
The Senate too. Yeah.
Words cannot describe how horrible that is.
Yeah.
Okay, we're at a stage here as a country, the abortion, at birth or after birth, which is just, quite frankly, unbelievable to me. And I think just most people that just have a conscience, for God's sakes.
Exactly.
And for the Democrats to take this and run with it, it's beyond objectionable.
Exactly. Let me go back to economics real quick for you, because you're right. Delaware's economics sucks in comparison to its neighbor West Virginia, which is taking advantage of lower taxes and taking advantage of transportation dollars. What would you do in Congress to help Delaware?
Well, I would hopefully be able to work with the president.
Yeah.
Right now, Delaware, Trump has a deaf ear towards Delaware. I mean, we have
with reason.
We have 3 representatives, and they're anti-president. What I would like to do is work with the president, work through Congress, bring the resources back to Delaware. Work on infrastructure. Bring manufacturing back to Delaware. We have no manufacturing jobs. We have chicken. We have the chicken industry. I'm not knocking that, but we need real jobs in Delaware, and it's just not there. And young people, they grow up there, they go to college, they move.
That's it. You hit it right on the mark.
I'm only there because my grandkids are still.
Exactly.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, that's the major reason for whether you look in the South or you look at Delaware, it's the economy, stupid. It's the bottom line of what you're going to do to keep young people there to make it prosperous.
The largest employer in the state of Delaware for years now is the state of Delaware.
Really?
That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
That people need to take a hard look at this.
Lee Murphy, what is the one thing that you want them to say about you when you have finished your term limited?
Term limited? Hey, I'm getting older, man.
When you have finished your stay in Congress.
I want people to know that Lee Murphy made a difference. And Lee Murphy lit a fire that younger people can follow and pursue the dream or pursue the same conservative causes that I pursue.
Lee Murphy, we thank you so much for being
GoMurph.com?
GoMurph.com.
Go Murph! That's all you have to do. Go Murph.
All conservatives should follow the website, okay? Because the only way we're going to retake Congress is if we all get involved, whether it's our state or not. Besides, I can't do anything in my state. I live in New York.
Bless your soul.
At least the president's from there.
Yeah, that's true.
Much.
Okay.
Good luck. I'm on your side, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
God bless you.
I really appreciate it.
Take my card, make sure that you get back in contact with me. I'll love you to get back with me. We'll do as much as we possibly can.
Good luck.
In your ride.
Thank you.
God bless you all. Thank you.
I'm actually an economics and finance professor.
Oh my God.
Economics?
It's economics, stupid.
I don't mean to sound mean, but when I took my one economics class, because I was a political science major, the first thing the teacher said is, started talking about in the ideal world. There is no ideal world. Okay? I raised my hand and the teacher gave me that look like, okay, you're failing.
She makes sense of it all.
Exactly. You got a great team right there.
But thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Nick heads up the Young Republicans in Delaware.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Come back to me on Saturday. I want to talk with you. Okay, great. If you're in the area on Saturday, I want to talk with you. Okay, cool.
Let's do it. He's going to be running for office one day. So
I hope
you're
so.
on his team.
Oh my! They would be afraid not to vote for you, man. You're wow. Good God, did you play football? No, you didn't. Oh my God! So if you play football, oh my God, everybody would just get out of your way.
Everybody thinks he's my bodyguard.
Thank you so much. I'll be talking with you on Saturday.
That's what people say when they see me walking with my wife.
Because he cheated and lied. But
Okay, get back with me. I will call you. All right, give me a call. I will do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful, the vivacious Sharon Engel.
You ready for me?
So great to have you on
Jeff
the air.
Dunetz, Sharon.
Hi, Jeff.
Oh my
Where do
goodness.
you want me?
Right there is fine. Wherever you wish to sit, Sharon. Wherever you wish to sit.
Let me get my stuff off here.
Okay. Sharon, we are so glad to have you with us today. You look beautiful.
Okay,
You
here
always
I
look
am.
beautiful.
How come you never say that to me? You know me.
Stop.
You never said that. Are we just live streaming here?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Well, now you know. I crimmed for TV, right?
We'll just put more out there.
Oh, my God.
You are one of the most wonderful people I've ever run into here at CPAC. I love coming back every year just because of you. Sharon, you are very huge in terms of the conservative movement. But what does your barometer say about the Trump administration? What do you say? Is he doing a great job, not doing a great job, things he needs to work on?
Oh, my gosh, Penny, that's such a softball.
Thank you. I throw the softball
Yay!
first.
Go, Donald! Trump! No, what else should I say about that, right? He's just doing such a great job out there. I have no criticisms. I really don't. I love his foreign policy, love what he's done with Korea and China, love how he's talked it up and really, truly made America great again. Love what he's doing on the border. Yes, about time that we started talking about crime.
Yeah.
Right? There's
Yeah.
lots of crime that happens on that border. This is not, has nothing to do with immigration. It really is crime. It's a crime to cross that border.
Thank you. That's the first
illegally,
problem.
Right?
That's
It's
the
a
first
crime.
problem.
It's a crime. So, you know, I can't say enough about my president. He's just a great guy, and I love this stage. I mean, it was a home run, and those ladies in white couldn't even smile. Oh my goodness!
Well, they did look like the KKK, but
Really?
yeah, the whole white
They
thing.
look like what the rabbis wear in Yom Kippur.
No.
Trust me. They
Sharon,
wear it's called a
That's an
kittle.
insult to rabbis.
No. Well, trust me, they're mostly liberal anyway. You're from one of my favorite states.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of the favorite cities that I've had. I've gone with my wife, so I have good, clean fun there. But how are we going to turn your state,
Red.
yeah, or at least a little more red?
It's an easy fix. Get
Sharon's
rid of
from Nevada, by the way, folks.
yeah.
It's an easy fix. Get rid of voter fraud.
Really?
I know that's not very PC, but
No, it's
when
very
I ran
honest.
against Harry Reid, and many of your audience may not even know that because we're now almost 10 years out.
And I was
And
writing about you saying vote
you
for a
were
vote
6
for.
years old, like some of the
Yeah,
millennials.
exactly.
And they don't remember, but when I ran against Harry Reid, he pulled out all the stops on that stuff. And we know for a fact it was 9.3% fraudulent voting. And it hasn't been cleaned up. And so when you have a 10% to possibly 15% and maybe more, we don't know. It's fraud. We don't know. But when you have at least 10% and you're in that deficit, you just running even, you lose. You know, they called me before the election for our senator and congressmen and our legislators, and they said, "What do you think? Do you think they're going to win?" And I said, "How much are they ahead?" And
You
they
better be
said
20 points ahead.
3 or 4%. I said, "No way,
Exactly.
no way." And
Well, you
in
gotta
fact,
understand
they're gonna
something,
lose by
folks.
they're going to lose by a pretty big margin.
Harry Reid invented the swamp. Okay?
But Sharon, there's some people who would say, wait a minute, you guys cannot talk about voter fraud because of what happened in North Carolina in the 9th District, where you had a very ambitious individual working for a candidate, and he interfered with the absentee voting process. So how dare you Republicans talk about voter fraud?
You know, it's both sides. It isn't just a specific Democrat problem. Both sides benefit from being able to control elections, and that's what fraud is about, right?
And I think it was the same year you ran.
The vote, you know, it's Stalin, right?
Yes.
Wasn't it Stalin that said, I don't care who votes.
It's who
not
counts it.
It's right. It's about who counts that vote.
I think Franken won the same year you ran, right?
Yes.
And it was a 300 vote difference, and they kept finding cars, Democrats, with absentee ballots in their trunk.
Now they have a name for that. It's called ballot harvesting.
Ballot harvesting?
It is. I mean,
it's the only time California will allow you to use their water. So ballot harvesting.
Isn't that something? But that's exactly what it is. It's after the fact, and if there aren't enough votes, then all of a sudden they begin to harvest the votes, and they are absentee ballots. The fraud occurs in the registration. That's why they like to have this open registration. We have it now in Nevada. And I would say to any state, don't let that happen in your state. What they've done is they've said when you get your driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. No proof of citizenship, no, it's just an automatic. You are registered to vote. That person may never vote, but he's on the rolls, and now they can request an absentee ballot for him.
Yep.
And so when it comes in a little bit shy, we just vote for that guy.
Exactly.
Right?
I want to ask you about land issues out west, because we joked about water in California.
Yeah.
But we know for a fact the federal government owns a large stake of Western America.
Yeah.
Is this Trump administration doing enough to release those lands, or do you believe he should?
You know, it's an interesting subject, especially in Nevada, because we're 87% federally controlled land.
You are.
Which is more than anybody else in the West.
Exactly.
Not only do we have 87% federally controlled land, we also have, I believe the statistic now is 50% of the wild horses and burros in the West live in Nevada. And that's often by design, because when that Wild Horse and Burro Act went into effect, they drove them all into Nevada. They said not in our state because they saw it coming.
Not my neighborhood.
Well, it's true. They are in our neighborhoods. And
we have possums and cats.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking to that particular issue, there has been a lot of, there was one death as a result of protesting on our side to open up the lands. Nevada has this major crisis. I have not yet heard a promise from Donald Trump regarding that, but I have not heard him say anything against it. What would you recommend he do in terms of lands out west?
Well, I know this is one of those things that people get kind of twisted up about, but we have some laws that we need to repeal in order to free up those lands. And the reason is because so much, the Wild Horse and Burro Act, for instance, you guys in Massachusetts, South Carolina, Florida, Texas, you all helped to support the wild horses and burros at $120 a day in Nevada.
They eat better than most people.
A head per day, right?
Exactly.
And so if that money were to go away, Nevada would be bankrupt. So one thing is we have to get rid of the sacred cow. It's either a wild animal, which should be managed by the Wildlife Service, or it's a feral animal, which means then you round them up and you use them for profit, however we do with feral animals. So we have to first decide what to do about that, but you can see why just turning those lands over to the state of Nevada would be overwhelming.
Yeah.
The other thing is wildfires. You guys have watched the California wildfires. We can't fight those wildfires all by ourselves in those brushlands. In fact, we don't have water in Nevada. That's why they call it a desert.
Yes.
And so, that's another one of those things where we have some a green, can I say Green New Deal?
Green.
They've got some of that kind of policy already in place where,
Exactly.
where we can't clear out underbrush, where we can't actually do conservation efforts in forests, and because of understory and different things, wildfires just go wild.
Exactly.
And they're costly in property damage and loss of life. We just have seen that. But that again, the federal government comes in to help states with that unless you declare an emergency. Of course, they will. But so there again, there's policies at the federal level that affect the states, and even if we were to get the lands back, we would still be accountable for those policies.
Should Donald Trump be talking with you about this?
I'd love to talk to him. In fact, I put in a resume when he got into office. I said, I'm pretty good on a few things. I'm pretty good on public lands. I'm pretty good on education. I was a teacher, and I've done all kinds of different things in education. And I'm pretty good on election integrity. Mm-hmm. So I'm just volunteering here. I'm waiting for a call, Donald.
Hey, Donald, we have a crisis.
See, now I sent him a letter when he and actually didn't send it to him. I sent it to his daughter, saying that if she ever dumps Jared, I have a son, and I've always wanted to have a billionaire daughter-in-law.
I was going to say,
I never heard back
the
from
money.
them.
Oh my God.
Sharon, the economy is slightly recovering in Nevada. Slightly.
It's going gangbusters.
Really?
Yeah.
Going gangbusters?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We're all... Really, my house has doubled since Trump was elected.
And why is that?
Why is that? Because
Yeah.
we have jobs, because we have a lot of California refugees.
Thank you.
Escaping the tax climate there, but no, we do have a really robust economy. I feel like that's happening throughout the United States, and you cannot fault. I mean, you cannot talk about good economy without talking about tax reform. Yeah. And that was one of the first things that Donald Trump did. See, I don't have a bad thing to say about this guy.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons that the economy is going gangbusters, is because of policies that he's put in place. He's now fighting for our businesses with these trade agreements, and everybody wants to call it a war. It's not war. This is just good negotiating.
You would have been the best U.S. senator that Nevada could have possibly. I've said that to you many times, and I say that publicly, and I say it privately to her. You would have been the best U.S. senator Nevada ever had. Here's the question to you: Tim Scott couldn't make it for the vote. Other senators seem not to be able to make it for the vote. The Democrats won on late-term abortion in the U.S. Senate when they blocked it, where we couldn't protect those who survived an abortion. What say you to your Republican fellows who couldn't make the appearance, and to, as well, the Democrats who are fast pushing late-term abortion?
Well, can I first say it to the American people?
Yes, you can.
And I'm gonna advertise for somebody else here, but they've got the best report card, and that's conservativereview.com. Conservativereview.com. Go in there, look up your legislature later. If he's less than 60%, he's failing. Get rid of him.
Bingo.
Find his record and get rid of him, and tell him so. Say, I'm watching you, bozo. And this is a record that they have been keeping since that fellow got into office. So it's not just the year that he decided to run again. If he's a congressman every 2 years, they kind of clean up their act.
Yeah.
And every 6 years, the senator will get real conservative. But they follow his record, and they know. They average it all in, and they give them a scorecard. Now, you can even go in the back and look at the specific legislation if you want to know where he failed. What did he vote on? Taxes, immigration, all of the conservative issues that we as true Republicans, we understand what that means. But I tell you, we've had such an infiltration within the Republican Party. It's really, really hard to tell the real from the fake.
Exactly. want to talk to you. We only have about 4 more minutes. I got because I want to talk with you a lot.
I don't know why. I just
you're
have
a brilliant
opinions.
But in terms of the national debt, it's increasing under Donald Trump too. We went from $20 trillion to 22. Now it's not the $8 to $10 trillion under Obama. It's not that. But when the sailors have a chance to spend money, they get drunk. What should America do now in terms of the national debt?
Well, it's not Americans. Americans are doing it. When we have a debt, we quit spending.
Yeah.
We quit spending. When we look at a budget, we have a budget. Quit spending, have a budget, have a balanced budget, and require a balanced budget. That's maybe I do find fault here because we haven't cut the spending.
Yeah.
We've talked about tax reform. That's good. That gets the economy rolling. That gets more money coming in. We've talked about foreign trade. That gets us a square deal. And now we've got more manufacturing, more money coming in. Those are all great things. Good GDP. We're going. But now we've got to stop the spending. And we all know about the deep state, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And I think there should be a lot of unemployment going on at that level. Honestly, those guys need to get a real job.
Thank you. I don't understand the U.S. government when you have 80% of the workers who are unimportant or don't have to be show up.
Non-essential.
Non-essential.
Isn't that a great word?
80% of them are non-essential. That means only 20% are needed. Fire the 80. Sharon, how can people listen to you on Conservative Commandos?
Oh, thanks for asking. We're on conservativecommandosradioshow.com. We're also on the AUN TV network. And you can also reach us at CCR Show, ccrshow.com. So that's a way. If you want to just look at my personal stuff, I've written 3 books that are for sale if you want one. 2 of them are political, one's about life. SharonAngle.com.
There we go.
SharonAngle.com. So
the woman who should have been the U.S. Senator is not for Harry Reid.
Yeah,
well, there were a lot of other elements.
The Swamp Man.
Yeah, but he was
Thank
the head.
you, Sharon.
Sharon, we love you. Thank you so much
Thank
for all
you.
you do.
Thanks, and thanks for letting me primp on your TV show.
Now,
I do the same thing.
Now, folks, our next guest, if you read my website, you know that I write about the climate hoax a lot. Okay, the guy who I use as a reference, who has a wonderful CD called Climate Hustle, and a new book, called The Politically Incorrect Guide to Climate Change, and my friend Mark Morano, who is the guy behind Climate Depot. Now, if you don't like what they call climate skeptics, tune out. Because, if it's getting so hot, I don't know why you're wearing a coat. It's because I believe in climate change. I'm not wearing a sports coat.
How dare you be so anti-science, sir?
Well, listen, I just came yesterday. The House Western Caucus had a hearing on the Green New Deal.
Exactly.
And it was amazing. AOC was scheduled to appear, but then backed out. And then the media got upset because it was filled with, quote, prominent climate change deniers. And it was me and Myron Ebell and skeptical climatologist, Dr. David Legates. But we dared. We were skeptical, and we did it on the congressional record. And, of course, the media is going crazy today. They're trying to attack the testimony. There's something that's happened here, and you alluded to it with the name denier. They do not allow any dissent on the global warming issue, and there's a simple reason. The head of the UN climate panel actually said, quote, global warming is my religion, unquote. And they want to impose this guy named Rajendra Pachauri when he stepped down a few years ago. This was the head of the Nobel Prize-winning panel. This is one of the reasons we're in the situation we are now. They allowed no dissent. They have the academia, the media, and Republicans are generally scared to push back.
And by the way, if you go to Climate Depot today, there's a video of Mark's testimony.
Yes.
On the front page. And my favorite thing that I can tell you about Mark is that when they had the big climate thing in Paris,
yes,
okay, they put out wanted posters because they didn't want anybody to talk to Mark. Okay, that's how bad they are.
Yes, this was in Paris 2015, the premiere of my movie in an old historic Paris theater. They had wanted posters for me on every Paris street. I went out in the city sidewalks and was seeing this. And the New York Times ended up covering this, and we ended up with mass amounts of protesters. The police came; they almost had to shut down our movie premiere. That's the kind of reception you get when you dare. And the movie just featured climatologists, scientists, geologists, all these scientists expressing why they didn't agree with the United Nations, and that was heresy.
97% of all scientists.
Yes, they promote these lies. In fact, we heard this in the media yesterday. We had a millennial protester. We ended up after the hearing, they had a press conference out in front of the Capitol. Millennial protesters showed up. What's the first thing out of their mouth? 97% of scientists. In my book, I have a whole chapter on that. In the film, I have a whole section on it. 97% isn't even 97 scientists. It's the most nonsensical figure. It was invented before they even had the fake studies to support it.
Actually, it's closer to 0.097%.
That's right.
Because
yes, if you look at the studies, yes.
That whole study is baloney, okay? And anybody who knows how to do research would read that going. They even, folks, what they did was they read studies and said whether they were pro-climate change or not. And there were studies that were anti-climate change, which said that it's nonsense, where they said, oh, yeah, this guy likes us.
Yes, in fact, rather than get into the statistics of what they did, they claimed that 97%, it actually was like less than half of 1% was the actual explicit endorsement. But the best way to explain it is a UN lead author who actually looked into this and published research on this 97% claim of the studies. And his testimony before Congress was, this study was, quote, the number was pulled from thin air. There's nothing in the study that justifies the number. And it was one of the worst things he'd ever looked at, statistical train wreck, essentially.
He's read my post on it.
That's right. But this will be repeated ad nauseum. And not only that, but now the new mantra is, if you want to know what climate change is, look out your window. We have people like Michael Mann saying this over and over. That's the new, you used to be, and now they say if there's prostitution increases, it's global warming, car thefts. It used to be you looked at temperatures, polar bears, but now you look at prostitution.
Of the top 60 stupid things they blamed on climate change. Okay, redheads, and aren't going to be any more redheads. I mean, just like the dumbest things.
Yes.
You know?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told me, and I believe her because she's a prophetess, that in 12 years, we will no longer... Now, I don't no longer believe the prophet who was vice president because his stuff didn't happen.
That's right, his tipping point, his failed. But you're willing to give a new one a chance.
He's making money off of it.
That's right.
Okay. Now, what sense does that make to come out and make that statement?
Well, what she's basing it on is the United Nations report, which said we had 12 years, and the media hyped that. So in defense of AOC, all she was doing was like I think it was the old Morton Downey Jr. used to call the pablum puker. She was just regurgitating what she had heard in the media. It really wasn't her fault. And what the media was claiming was the UN issues, new tipping point, 12 years where the world must act, blah, 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 blah. Now, that would be fine if they wanted to make that ridiculous claim, but in 1982, the UN issued a tipping point. In 1989, the UN issued a 10-year tipping point by which we must act. NASA's lead scientists said at the beginning of Obama's first term, we had a 4-year tipping point. Prince Charles famously issued the 100-month tipping point and then literally counted down. And once the 100 months expired, he came up with like a 2041 tipping point. He could still make it. He'll only be like 96, and his mother's still alive, so he's got good genes. He can make his new tipping point. We'll see if he makes it. But they just keep scratching out the deadline and adding a new one and the media doesn't skip a beat. They just go on to the next prediction as though it's profound.
Okay. Well, you say that climate change doesn't exist. There's no such thing as climate change, right?
Well, it's the climate's always changed. It's man-made climate change carbon dioxide from mankind's emission are not the control knob of the climate. You cannot distinguish mankind's impact from natural variability. There are hundreds of factors. CO2 is but one, and humans also cool it with our fossil fuel use because we emit aerosols which dim the earth. And in the 1970s, they thought we were causing a coming ice age, wanting to put soot on the Arctic. And in the 1970s, they were blaming man-made global cooling on wars, famines, tornadoes, hurricanes. Gee, that sounds awfully familiar. That CIA report warned that if we got cold, we would have political instability. And now they just flip it all over. Hey, if we get warm, we're going to have
something you talk.
Don't you believe our Pentagon? They say it's a threat. Don't you believe our generals? So when did the left love generals? I don't know. Timothy Leary, is he alive? Would be rolling in his grave. Is he still alive?
Wasn't it during the last ice age, the CO2 level was like 12,000 times? What is it?
In the book, I have a whole chapter, and in fact, there's Andrew Freeman from, I think it's Axios, based on our hearing, is telling people the highest CO2 levels in 800,000 years. Well, first of all, in the book, I point out that's not true. And secondly, we've had a CO2 famine currently that geologically speaking, if you go back millions and even further, we're in one of the lowest points of CO2 in the history of our planet, and we're in one of the most coldest. We've had ice ages with higher CO2, and we've had much warmer temperatures with more CO2, and so there's no correlation between that. It's fascinating.
Now, why do they keep saying it's getting hotter, hotter, hotter?
Yeah.
When actually, if you look at the satellite data, it's not getting hotter.
Yes, well, that's what it is. If you start with the Roman warming period, we've cooled. If you start with the medieval warming period ending in 1300, we've cooled. Oddly, the temperatures went on, the thermometer readings went on 1850, the end of the Little Ice Age, when New York Harbor froze over, the Thames River, very cold, couple hundred-year period in the globe. So we have warmed since the end of the Little Ice Age. Yes, we have. However, our peak is still the late 90s, and then we've essentially been no change. You say, how could that be? The hottest year on record. Every year is the 10th hottest decade. This is the hard time. I have a whole chapter. I even got the Associated Press issue of Attraction on this one. The hottest year claims are year-to-year differences within hundredths to tenths of a degree, well within the margin of error of the data set. So it's total nonsense. It's a fancy way of saying the temperature hasn't changed, but we're going to hype statistically insignificant amounts so we can scare you and make a political statement.
Wait a minute. There have been forest fires, and we had hurricanes and earthquakes. All of that is related to climate change, isn't it?
Don't forget what happened at the end of Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
Right. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Ghostbusters, actually, Bill Murray and the creator of that were criticized as being old white men climate skeptics. Very anti-EPA movie if you go back and look at it. The EPA guys.
Look at it.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah. What was your question again? It was about somehow Ghostbusters got mentioned.
About Ghostbusters.
About everything that they say. They say it's hurricanes, tornadoes,
droughts. Okay. In the book and in all the I collate all the peer-reviewed literature. This is actually in the UN report.
Notice it's his book, but I keep holding
it
up.
Politically incorrect guide to climate change.
This is actually in the federal climate report that the Trump administration, the abomination that the Trump administration allowed to go by. Extreme weather is actually on no trend or declining trends. In other words, they had forced to admit deep in the reports that there's no trends in all this. In fact, hurricanes were much worse when CO2 was lower. Tornadoes have been at record low. Floods are at no trend on climate timescales. But what they've done, like in the case of droughts, California, anything, they'll say many bad things are going to happen. Anytime a bad weather event happens, see, we told you so. We had Barbara Boxer go on the Senate floor. Tornado in Tornado Alley. Scientists warned us this would happen. That there'd be tornadoes in Tornado Alley? That there'd be hurricanes in hurricane season? What are you smoking?
I have a copy of Newsweek from 1975 that every time they go tornadoes from global warming, because the article is we're having lots of tornadoes because the Earth is getting colder.
That's and it's actually true.
So and now they do, and they flipped it. They flipped it.
But what does it matter weather? In
well,
general?
weather was a shift because they were talking about a continuous temperature. That failed them like 20 years ago. So then they said, we have to turn this in. And I remember I was at the Bali United Nations Conference, 2007, and just as an aside, $16,000 round-trip ticket when I worked in the Senate from the State Department, huge daily allowance. I was at a 4-5-star oceanfront hotel. Not only did it have a hot tub and sandy beaches and palm trees, it had a cold tub next to the hot tub, so you could cool yourself off, heat yourself up, luau's every night. I just cracked myself. That's that's part of the reason this whole cottage industry of climate is going. These were all the climate scientists get flown in, all the activists, UN bureaucrats, Hollywood celebrities, politicians, and it is one of the greatest parties still that I go to annually every year at these UN conferences. The reason at this conference, though, they openly talked about tying extreme weather to global warming instead of just temperature, because they were losing the game on temperature. And even polar bears. Al Gore never mentioned polar bears because they're at or near historic populations. It wasn't mentioned in his sequel. Yeah. What happened to the mascot? So what happened is they tried to say every bad weather event, and they don't have the data, but they have the anecdotal evidence. And that's a very powerful human persuasive tool, because people are wired to think that their time on this planet is unique. Oh my gosh, I've never seen this happen, therefore it must be unique. And that's what they do. So now every time it's a snowy day and off season, or it's a warm day in the winter, they think, aha, we were warned to this. It works. Psychologically, it works.
Well, and the sick part is
it's unscientific. But.
Well, even more than that, if you make fun of them, like whenever Al Gore testified about global warming for Congress, it'd be a snowstorm.
Yes.
And you make fun of them. And then they go, well, there's a difference between weather and climate. But we have one storm. They go, see?
That's right, yes. We went like 12 years without a Category 3 or larger hurricane hitting, the longest period since records began in the U.S. Civil War. Unprecedented, just like no big hurricanes. What happens? We get like a Category 1, and this is what global warming looks like. So I did a report every year going back to like 2004 or 5. Every storm since they started this new meme on this is what global warming looks like. We warned you, this is what. So it's like every single event, it's like, it's like saying, going to a fortune teller, they say, you will have many trials in your life. So wait a minute, one day you sprain your ankle, another day you go into credit card debt, and one day you have a car accident. Oh my gosh, that fortune teller is a genius, they predicted it. They said I would have trials and tribulations in my life. That's the equivalent of this, can I curse? Bullshit that they're promoting.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Arano, politically incorrect climate change. My final question to you.
Yes.
Meteorologists, how good are they at predicting the weather?
Well, they've gotten better, but they're still only about 2 weeks out that they can give you trends. And even that, I laugh, even though Washington snowstorm predictions have gotten a lot better, they always come 10 days out. We're looking at this storm. If you actually look at it, they either blow into something bigger than they thought, or they fizzle, or the timeline's way off. And to think 10, 20, 30, 100, one of the classic things they do, as I call it, the misdirection, and they did it this year. We've been cooling globally 3 years in a row now since the El Nino. So how are they going to spin that headline? Earth's still one of the hottest years, but the next 5 are predicted to be hottest ever. So they get a misdirection. If current reality fails, make a scarier prediction of the future.
They say it's the third warmest year in history.
Yes.
And it's cooler than the last 2.
Yeah, and it's also statistically insignificant when they try to claim again the hottest year.
Because it's so tiny.
Yes.
But it's folks, if you're like me and you're interested in the real story about climate, first of all, Climate Hustle, got to get the CD because it's hilarious. And it's true. Okay? And
there we go.
You have to get this book. Okay? And more than that, you should do what I do every morning. The second website I go to, the first is mine. The second website I go to is Climate Depot, because if you really want the truth, and it's not just like, the bullshit, well, it's not getting warm. It's the facts, it's the statistics, and it's sometimes a little snark thrown in.
And by the way, Jeff you've done some fantastic blog posts and having a lot of fun with this, whether it's AOC or some of these climate claims. And your blog is really get the spirit of it.
That she can have my hamburger when she pries it out of my cold, dead hands. Okay?
You're not worried about cow flatulence, I take it.
Oh, no, I do. Every time they do it, I love doing it, because it's the only time I can say farts and get away with it in my house.
We have U.S. senators running for president tweeting about cow farting based on that
Green
New Deal.
I have a picture of a cow where they put a gas tank on top of it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
and I use it all the time.
A contraption to recycle the methane.
Great having you on the
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Mark,
thank you so much, Jeff. And I'm sorry for being late here.
Don't worry about it.
No worries.
By the way, I sent you a good article yesterday that Instapundit picked it up.
Okay,
it's about the Green New Deal. I'm like,
okay.
To me, the Green New Deal is about boogers, but
He's got the attitude. Jeff's idea is about as serious as you should take man-made climate change. That's about all we need.
Well, you know what? And also, I've done the research that just before we go into an ice age, climates tend to go like this.
And we're overdue for an ice age. In fact,
Right?
in the 1970s, that's all they talked about.
Now,
They're
last
saying we may have
Thanksgiving,
stopped the next ice age, but isn't that a good thing if we actually did?
2 years ago in Thanksgiving, when we were in the West Coast by my wife's Hollywood family, and I started talking politics, that's actually when the ice age started. Trust me.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of ice age.
You can't go to
We're
California.
going to do a quick interview real quick before the next one. Mark Morano,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Jeff.
And I'll probably see you around here.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right. This gentleman right here. Okay. Come right on over.
I'm sorry.
Real quick. Real quick. Yep. Okay, great. Christopher Metzler.
How you doing?
Good having you on the program again.
Jeff Dunetz. Hi.
How are you?
Listen, you were wrong about Jesse Smollett. He couldn't pull it off.
Do you know this week that they arrested somebody who was a transgender who burnt her house down, burnt his house down, who's now a him.
Yeah.
Just to get attention for his issue, but the son of a bitch, excuse me, didn't take their pets out of the house before they burned them down, and they killed like 5 dogs too.
My God.
I mean, it's like, if you say smart things, you'll get attention.
Yeah.
Right?
How about that?
You know?
And how about the fact that this wasn't the first time he's lied to the police?
Well, yeah, and there are others both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you have a governor in Virginia who still hasn't told us whether he was the KKK guy or the guy in black.
Come on!
And then we find out the lieutenant governor is has women who say he raped, and then the number 3 guy also put on blackface. And I have to tell you something.
And now the governor's wife is giving cotton to black kids. Well, how's that repentance thing working?
Yeah, there you go.
I was trained as an actor, and I was a professional actor, okay? Mm-hmm. And I had to put on makeup for years. I was a mime once and had to put on clown white. But if somebody said to me, put on blackface, I'd say, what are you freaking kidding?
Dr. Metzler, you have written a great book,
Divided We Stand,
Can
the
we
Search for
hold it up?
America's Soul.
Yep, here we go. Divided. There we go.
Available on Amazon?
Amazon, wherever books are sold.
Wherever books are sold.
Okay.
Folks.
Dr. Christopher Metzler. Now,
please read it.
We just take 2 minutes here.
Yes.
Tell us what the whole book is about, and I'm going to try to get you back over on the weekend so we can talk about it in greater detail.
Absolutely. So first, it dispels the notion that the division in this country started with President Trump. It did not. It goes way back. And as a matter of fact, if we look at the Clinton administration, that was one of the most divisive administrations ever. So it dispels that notion. I also talk a lot about fake news and the mainstream media, in particular because they're not giving news, they're giving opinion, which is fine, but say that and stop trying to pretend that you're really objective.
Amen.
Talks about that. I talk about returning to true conservative principles as the way of really healing the division in America. I look a lot at the courts and the whole notion of originalism. I dispel the notion that racism is so pervasive in this country and that everything is blamed on racism. Here's the problem. The problem is the left has essentially taken race and they are using it as a weapon because that's all they have. They don't have ideas. They have race, and they believe that that's what they're using it for. I'm also calling for term limits because I think it's time for us to get rid of these people who've been there since the beginning of time.
Dr. Christopher Metzler, ladies and gentlemen, Divided We Stand, the search
for America's soul.
There we go.
Amen.
And you'll be with me on the Saturday. We'll work out a time for you to come back so we can talk in greater detail about the book.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're
my
awesome.
pleasure.
Thank you so much,
Yes,
Doctor.
You talk about divisiveness, nobody talks about, except for me, Barack Obama was the most anti-Semitic president in my lifetime.
I talk about that in the book as well, my friend.
Good,
Yes.
because I've been writing about it for 12 years.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Giving examples.
Yes.
Great. I can't wait to get myself a copy. But
Thank
I
you,
will
sir.
when I get home.
Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you Saturday.
Okay.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest. Who's our next guest? Oh,
Larry Horace.
Thank you so much.
Larry, Jeff Dunetz, how are
You
you?
are the final guest for this particular day. It's been a blockbuster day, and I'm quite certain that you've garnered a great deal from CPAC. What's the number one thing people should take out of CPAC today?
Well, I'll tell you maybe a surprising answer. Size and success. If the world wanted to look, and they talk in the media like conservatism is some marginal philosophy. What is it, 10,000 here? I actually been a friend of Dave Keene, who started CPAC when we were kids, when he started it.
Really?
And you went to CPAC when he started it, the first ones. Well, there's 100 people in a room.
Right.
Now there's 10,000 people. Look at Media Row. We had no media in those days. It was years before any media had any interest in anything we were doing.
Well, you know what I call CPAC? Band camp for conservatives.
Yeah. There's no doubt. It used to be called one of the most important conservative meetings in the country. It is now one of the most important political meetings in the country.
Yep.
It is.
And I bless Dave Keene for starting this operation and building it to what it was and to such success that it became. And then, of course, he went on to be the head of the NRA for a while, and then he was the editor of the New York Times, the Washington Times. He was editorial there, and right now he's off in Argentina hunting.
Good for him. He earned it.
Socialism, is that really the biggest threat to America?
I think to the extent that any attack on the Constitution is a threat to America. The Constitution is the bedrock, and we don't listen to it very much. We don't obey it very much. And I'm particularly draw attention to the 10th Amendment. It says that, whatever is not specifically assigned to the federal government is retained by the states and the people. Our founders would, if they weren't dead already, they would die if they saw America today.
That's why it's called the United States.
Exactly.
There was 13 individual little countries joining together in a union.
That's why we don't use the word province like other countries segment their country. We call it a state, which is a title for a country. We're a united state, but we've homogenized into a union. But the Constitution says things like swift and equal justice. A guy 25 years on the death row for murder is swift and certain justice? No, it's not. It's not. Now, our country was not perfect when the Constitution was written, but they did something very brilliant. They made it amendable, and they wrote something that kind of reflected what they thought. They knew that they weren't making a perfect union. Of course. So what did they say? In order to form a more perfect union.
That's right.
They said, in order to form, this is the way to do it. And you're going to do it. We can't do it for political reasons. We, the founders, we have to go as far as we can go. But then what you're going to do is every generation is going to improve or not improve. And they gave us warnings.
Yep.
Frank?
And you know what? People don't understand. You can explain the Constitution in 5 words. Government, get off my back.
Yep. That's right.
But that's what the Constitution is.
We got about 1 minute left.
I'm sorry.
No. We got 1 minute left before we have to break away. So, can you tell America right now, what does our future look like? Good, bad, or ugly?
I will tell you from the conservatives I've talked to, those in leadership and everything, I would have to say scary. We have confidence in one way in the future of America to correct itself whenever it strays. But there still is a part of us that says, has the socialism, has the democratic big government, the high tax, redistribution of wealth, has it become so inbred that maybe it's not going to come back? Maybe we've tilted past the balancing point and we're going to fall. And Franklin said it. He said, the minute the people learn that they can vote themselves money, the republic is over. And that's profound.
Larry Hoyce, thank you so much for being with us today. We got to break away. We got to go.
I'm going to give a plug. Punchingbagpost.com.
Punchingbagpost.com.
I write for that 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and I do my commentaries.
You know what? I do believe that the election of Trump, whether you like him or not, was a reaction to the move towards socialism. And
I'm hoping that we're going to get the kickback, and I'll tell you.
And nobody else had the guts to say this will never be a socialist country.
No, that was great. I would say one thing I've always said. I had my fingers crossed, to be honest, when I voted for Trump. He was a little bit of an uncertain quality. Mm-hmm. I have been pleasantly surprised at his dedication to conservative principles. In the judgeships, in pushing for school choice, reducing the size of the government, the expense of the government, building up the military. So while most of that other media focuses on the bright, shiny objects here and there, this government, cabinet members, managers of government are changing the trajectory completely, and the liberals are running around chasing the bright, shiny objects.
Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Hoyce, Punching Bag.
Nice to meet you. Take one of my cards.
Thank you so much.
Larry, take one of my cards. Okay.
Listen, and also make sure that you have mine too, because we want to hear from you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, Horace, am I correct? Larry Horace?
Horace, yeah.
Okay, great. I had it wrong the other way. I apologize. Larry Horace. Ladies and gentlemen, we have enjoyed our time here on the Exceptional Conservative Show. We are getting ready to break away so that Michael Vasquez can make his debut as CPAC. Jeff Dunetz will be back with me.
The Urban Conservative Network with one bald Jew. And folks listening on SHR, I'll be back tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel.
God bless you all.
Are we off?
Yeah.
You'll appreciate that. I did a column.
And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow. That's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer. That's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Is your fixed income truly fixed income? Does it provide diversification, income, and risk management for your clients? At MFS, we help advisors deliver these essentials. We call it Essential Fixed Income. Find out more at mfs.com/fixed income.